All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy Black History Month. Thanks for joining us for the first of 5 events celebrating the publication of the landmark anthology, Mamas, Martyrs, and Jezebels, Myths, Legends, and Other Lies You've Been Told About Black Women, edited by Drs. Jan Bolwar, Randrea Mattis, Kadesta Youssef, and Clarissa West White. Mamas, Martyrs, and Jezebels, Myths, Legends, and Other Lies You've Been Told About Black Women revisits notions of Black womanhood to include the ways in which Black women's perceived strength can function as a dangerous denial of Black women's humanity. This collection addresses the stigma of this extraordinary endurance in professional and personal spaces, the Black church, in interpersonal partnerships, and within the justice arena, while also giving voice and value to the Black women's experiences as the backbone of the Black family and community. In this event, contributors to the section of the book dedicated to the theme body will discuss their work. So, joining us today are Denise Nicole Andrews, Pietra Dunmore, K.E. Garland, and Janice Liddell. And our moderator, of course, is Professor Kadesta Youssef, who wrote the introduction to this section of the anthology dedicated to the theme of body. Right now, I'm going to read the introduction. I'm going to read bios from the back of the anthology. Please bear with me. Denise Nicole Andrews, MFA, is the publisher of the Hellbore Press and founder of Hues, Hues. She teaches and resides in Sacramento, California, with her best friend and partner. She enjoys lavender lattes, mitski, and being a friend to all. For tender affirmations, follow Denise on X at @DNicoleAndrews. Our second panelist is Pietra Dunmore. Pietra Dunmore writes short stories, creative nonfiction, and poetry. Her writing has appeared in Hippocampus Magazine, Philadelphia Stories, The Naciona, and Santa Fe Writers Project Quarterly. She holds a double master's, MFA in creative writing, and MA in publishing from Rosemont College. You can read her work on pietradunmore.net. Our next panelist is K.E. Garland, who is a creative nonfiction writer based in Florida. She uses personal essays and memoir to demarginalize women's experiences with an intent to highlight and humanize issues. Her most notable work is a chapter published in the all women's anthology, All the Women in My Family Sing, which personalizes the effect of being an affirmative action hire. Recently, essays have appeared in the anthology All About Love, The Chicken Soup for the Soul series, Raising Mothers, and Pulp PULP Mag. She is a wife, a mother of 2 daughters, and an associate professor of education. Our final panelist is Professor Janice Liddell. Janice Liddell is a professor emerita who retired as university educator and administrator from Atlanta Metropolitan State College. Previously, she served at and retired from Clark Atlanta University, where she worked for over 35 years as English professor, director of faculty development, and chairperson, Department of English. She is a playwright, and several of her plays have been produced in both the US and abroad. She's also the author of a children's book, and co-editor of a collection of literary criticism, as well as several published articles and poems in various collections and anthologies. Professor Liddell is a wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, and resides in Atlanta, Georgia. Our moderator, one of our editors of this lovely anthology, I'm just going to hold it up again, is Professor Kadesta Youssef, who is a tenured associate professor of criminal justice and the department chair of the undergraduate criminal justice and masters in criminal justice administration programs at Bethune-Cookman University. She also serves as the director of the Bethune-Cookman University Center for Law and Social Justice. Dr. Youssef has 20 years of collegiate teaching experience, including undergraduate and graduate instruction in criminal justice, sociology, and African American and African studies. Her areas of expertise include community police relations, police use of force, race and social justice, and performance management. Dr. Youssef currently serves as the National Coordinator of Student Law Enforcement Engagement for the 400 Years of African American History Commission I Fear for My Life federal initiative, which establishes a national dialogue between African American college students and police based on the common theme, fear. She received a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice with a minor in African American Studies and Masters in Applied Sociology from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. She has a Master's in Criminal Justice from John Jay College of Criminal Justice and a PhD in Criminal Justice with concentration in law policy and practice from the Graduate Center, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, the City University of New York. She's a proud mother of 3 amazing children, Sinait, Melese, and Kibra. So for today's program, we will open with Professor Youssef, who will read from her lovely introduction, and she will tell us a little bit about the section, how she came to it, and what we can expect as readers of the anthology from the section. And then we'll turn it over to the panelists who will be talking about, who will read briefly for about 5 minutes, and then eventually will fall into panel discussion. We invite participants to ask questions in the chat box during the discussion portion of the event, and we also ask participants to please mute their mics so that we can have seamless reading and seamless conversation throughout. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Youssef to help us start the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Greetings, peace and blessings, everyone. Happy Black History Month again. As mentioned, I'm Dr. Kadista Youssef, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as tonight's moderator. That are joining us on this call, Dr. Bill Ware and Dr. Wes White, and of course, all of the writers and contributors to the anthology. We thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining in. I wrote the section entitled The Body. And I selected this section largely because I immediately thought of Dorothy Roberts' Killing the Black Body, 1997, that I had read that really talked about the ways in which Black women's bodies are dissected and attacked in our society. As mentioned, my background is criminal justice and policing. And so when I think about Black women's bodies, I think about the policing of our hair, our clothes, our body style, our movements, in the way that directly connects with the latter part of the theme, Jezebel. And we all know the trope, the stereotype associated with Sapphire and Jezebel, this idea that Black women have been hypersexualized in our society to disguise our own lack of autonomy of our own bodies, particularly as it relates to not being protected on plantations and in public spaces. And so I was really interested in, along with the other editors, in how we as Black women navigate the politics of respectability in our homes and workplaces and our friendships. In present day, we see the attacks on Black women's bodies in the forms of reproductive rights, medical malpractice, and neglect, as well as beauty standards. Speaking to right before I read my section, just speaking to the broader theme of the book, that part of this book came about because we were just having a Vinton session during one of our academic breaks about the responsibilities of carrying this burden of being a superwoman. And so Black women in our society are often denied um, the right or the space to be fragile, to be feminine, to be soft, to be vulnerable, because we have society has largely directed this myth of perseverance continuously, um, unending strength, et cetera. And so we kind of began this volume in this place. So I kind of want to, in this conversation, talk about the consequences of this erasure of our femininity, of our vulnerability, of the fullness of who we are as Black women in society today. So I'm going to read my section, and yes, 4 years ago seems quite, quite a long time ago. But yes, this was written 4 years ago, and so I'll begin my section. I'm 5'3", 154 pounds. I was well into my 30s before I stood in front of the mirror in the full glory of my birthday suit. The exterior of my womb already covered with indented streaks, creating a sunburst wrap to nowhere. For years, it felt improper that my daughter, my firstborn, would gift me with such marks in a flamboyant way. But like me, she is her grandmother's child, born into a world where we are simultaneously hypervisible and invisible. The way my mother entered a space made the room shift. Her face seemed to be perfectly crafted, a manifestation of our East African origins, which as a child growing up in the 1980s seemed to make her Blackness more palatable, easier for the masses to accept and then digest. Her skin was soft caramel, her face slim, cheekbones high, her nose stretched to a pristine point. She had the look of a Disney princess. To be a Black woman in America is to be constantly inspected, policed, and voyeuristically praised, and then left unprotected. Our bodies have always been a source of commotion and commodity. From the fullness of our features to the silent pain that spreads from our feet to our crown, as the latest images reflecting the killing of Black bodies are shared and retweeted. The violence inflicted upon our bodies in hospital birthing rooms, educational spaces, boardrooms, our homes and communities, and on social media doesn't garner the attention it deserves. Despite our femininity, we are not treated as members of a protected class. Akin to abuse or stress, attacks to the body manifest little by little. In this chapter that follows, you will read stories of empowerment, introspection, and critique. But mostly you'll take part in the reclaiming of our bodies in all its splendor and grace. These pages offer protection and affirmation for all the women who have birthed ideas, children, businesses, and love. This is your legacy. Enjoy the songs and join us in a collective sway or two-step. And I just want to mention each of the introductions are accompanied by a list of songs to just kind of accompany. We're musical people. It's in our blood and our spirit. And so that's just part of our nature. So now I want to shift, if that's okay. This section really highlights, we're going to talk about medical care and neglect. We're going to talk about senses of entitlement and autonomy of our own body and space. We're going to talk about aging, and we're going to talk about our sexuality across these chapters that are being read. So I think, Miss Andrews, if you want to go first.
Hello, everybody. I'm so honored to be in community with you all. I just feel so blessed to be here today. I am going to be reading an excerpt from my essay entitled Biopsy. So again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I unclenched my jaw as the needle exited my flesh. The doctor left my breast exposed, but the medical assistant was quick to close my gown. She rushed from across the room to aid me as the doctor continued to prepare for the procedure. The medical assistant challenged the doctor when necessary. She knew that I needed more lidocaine, even before I asked. But if she hadn't expressed concern, would the doctor have listened? She knew where to operate. She knew my first name. She said that I was modest, but in all honesty, I was not keen on flashing my chest to strangers, even in the event of surgery. I responded yes to all their questions. Are you comfortable? Are you able to feel that? Are you okay? Rather than cause any commotion, I opted for agreeability. I did not want to be perceived as difficult or demanding. I wanted to be an easy patient to avoid all judgment, but I was not comfortable. I wasn't okay. And while the second dose of anesthetic helped, it could not numb my anxiety, embarrassment, or shame. Still, I could not help but wonder why the doctor administered less anesthetic to me. Was it because of my weight? My skin color? Was there a shortage? What myths continued to permeate beyond the needle? Myth. Black women have a higher tolerance for pain. Myth. Black women have thicker skin. Myth. Black women exaggerate. Myth. Black women cannot be trusted with pain medication. Myth. Black women can handle more. Myth. Black women can endure and endure and endure. Myth. Black women are resilient. Resilience was the reason I waited so long to be checked out. Resilience was the reason I downplayed every red flag. Resilience was perseverance, commendable, praiseworthy, rare, exceptional, excellent, until whatever Black women were resilient to killed us. All too often, Black women are ignored and unheard. In that operating room, I was afraid to speak truthfully because I did not know if that truth would be weaponized against me. Yet the facts were staggering. Fact. Black women are less likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer, but more likely to die from breast cancer. Fact. Black women's mortality rates are 42% higher than white women's. Fact. Black women may experience more aggressive forms of breast cancer. Fact. Black women may be diagnosed with breast cancer at younger ages. Fact. Black women receive fewer screenings for breast cancer. I closed my eyes to prepare for the unimaginable. I promised myself I wouldn't cry, so I made small talk. I couldn't crack. I refused to crack. I told the staff that I raised chickens when I was younger. I told them that my stepsister was recently married and that I was too. I said I didn't go to her wedding and she didn't go to mine. I told them I was almost finished with my master's degree. I told them I missed my grandmother and that I missed my mother. I told them everything. I was convincing them that I was human, that I could feel, that I was real and worthy of life. 25 years was not enough time for me. I was still figuring this woman's stuff out. The radiologist took 4 samples of tissue. The machine that sucked the tissue out produced a loud clicking noise that was like the sound of an unsafe and spontaneous ear piercing at the mall. The first time startled me, but by the end of the procedure, the nurse said that I handled the examination beautifully. I knew that she was trying to compliment me, but she didn't realize how hard I was trying. I tried to conceal my emotions. My reaction to each needle was mild. I tried to be polite. My mannerism suggested that I was ladylike, well-spoken, educated, a switch, a performance, an act. I only let on to the parts of me that made me reputable. I tried to be a good patient, easy, non-combative, non-fussy, non-existent. It wasn't until I was fighting back tears and oversharing that I became me. Anxious, tender, vulnerable, afraid, soft, whole. I couldn't tell the nurse that, so I said thank you. I received my results the following week. My mom started a prayer train among my grandmother, aunt, and cousin. Everybody had my back, or rather, my boob. My partner sat with me in the doctor's office. There were 3 doctors there. I didn't meet any of them at my previous appointments, and yet they knew so much about me. My partner held my hand again, but this time I wasn't hiding. I wasn't pretending. I wasn't masking. I was open. I was ready. The results were negative. The cyst was benign. The doctor said that I wouldn't have to come back for my next mammogram until I was 40. I was relieved. I left the hospital with a renewed sense of hope. I was getting another chance. After all, I was somebody's granddaughter. I was somebody's sister. I was somebody's daughter. I was somebody's lover. Theirs and my own. In my skin, in my body, in my flesh. Somebody. Thank you so much.
Hi, I think I am next. My name is Pietra Dunmore, and my piece is up for grabs. I was having a conversation with an older male friend of mine about Woody Allen and the fact that he married his adopted daughter, Soon Ying Priven. I was sickened and appalled. If he raised this girl as his own, that makes her his daughter. He shouldn't see her in that way. Sure, the child's not blood, but it's wrong, I argued. My friend countered, saying, if a woman was of legal age, she was up for grabs. I was bothered by the crassness of his answer. Although I've heard men talk like this, I try to believe most men have a sense of decorum. However, an incident that I can best describe as eye-opening had me questioning my belief. I was good friends with my ex-boyfriend's family. The relationship was years in the dust. Both he and I had moved on and were dating other people, but I was still considered like family. His family invited me to their events, took me out for dinner on my birthday, and even held a small gathering when I graduated college. I consider his father my second father, and I would make a habit of sending him birthday and Father's Day cards. His mother was a woman I had admired for her cooking. I appreciated their willingness to keep me as part of the family, and I loved them very much. During a visit to a restaurant, my second father joked that his wife thought there was something going on between the two of us. As he spoke of our alleged affair, I continued eating, not saying a word as I questioned where the conversation was going. I wondered why his wife hadn't joined us. It remained lighthearted, and my spidey senses remained at bay. We finished dinner, and I walked toward our cars. I thanked him for dinner and was ready to get into my car and drive home. Then he asked to kiss me. I thought he was joking until I noticed his eyes looked a little different. I felt the color drain from my face and nearly lost all feeling in my legs. I could feel my eyes grow to the size of silver dollars and my tear ducts opened slightly. He immediately apologized for asking, saying he had read me wrong and he thought that was what I wanted. When he apologized, he told me that he thought I had been looking at him in a suggestive way for years. He told me that my stare was so intense sometimes he had to turn away. I don't remember the exact mechanics of how I got into my car, but I recall half-heartedly taking the $20 he handed me for gas money. As he gave it to me, he politely suggested that I not share the situation with anyone and that we would still be okay to hang out. He just knew where the boundaries were now. I felt like I had gotten paid off. As I drove home, I replayed the entire evening in my head, wondering when I could have sent him signals. I wondered if I had been wearing something suggestive. Was it my fuchsia top with the beaded detail or my skinny jeans? I looked him in the eyes as he spoke. I remember thinking how much he looked just like his son at a particular moment while he was talking to me. How both the lines around his face looked like parentheses enclosing a friendly grin. Maybe he noticed that. I wondered if his wife had really thought that there was something between us and if I had crossed some line by remaining friendly with the family. I didn't know if it was protocol to call and ask. As I thought about his apology, I remembered him telling me he looked at me as a grown woman, not as his son's ex-girlfriend, that we were equals. What ran through my mind was a barrage of questions trying to figure out exactly when I had become a grown woman in his eyes and how badly I wished I could reverse the perception. Me being a grown woman didn't change the fact that he possibly had been lusting after me and desiring me ever since he met me. And when did he start looking at me that way? Was it the first day I met him, when we all sat together at the dinner table trading stories? Did he look at me that way when he told me I could do better than his son? Did he feel that every time we hugged or he kissed me on the cheek? I hated the way that one question erased years of a kinship and mutual understanding that I believed I had. I received a text that night. Hopefully you made it home okay. I want to say that I'm sorry. I was reading your eyes and your words wrong. Please forgive me. Other than being somewhat embarrassed, I see that you are a true friend. I did have a nice time and hope to do dinner again in the near future. Please accept my apology. Stay in touch. In hysterical tears, I called my older male friend and told him what happened. His voice remained as matter of fact as when we had talked about Woody Allen. Told ya.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to KE
Thank-
Garland, I'm sorry.
It's okay. KG is
Okay.
fine, Dr. Youssef.
Okay.
I was going to say thank you to the editors for accepting this piece. I appreciate it. And especially thank you to Dr. Youssef for this very important section and for giving it attention. So the title is There's Some Whores in This House. And a couple of things before I read. The first thing is that since this book has come out, because 4 years is a long time, I had a memoir come out, and this is actually an excerpt from that memoir, In Search of a Salve, Memoir of a Sex Addict. And the second thing is that what prompted me to write this is I thought I was over this situation until Cardi B and Meg decided to do a song. And I thought that somebody was playing a trick on me in this car. So it prompted me to write this essay. Alphas are having a house party. Let's go, Keisha said. She and I met our first year of undergrad. Partying with her and our friends Kenya and Amy was commonplace. We poured cup after cup of pink Boone's Farm in between choosing outfits, doing hair, and applying makeup. You wearing those black jabos again? Kenya asked. You know she is, Keisha answered for me. I was. They were my favorite. A colorful rayon blouse and a pair of black booties made it look like I tried, but not too hard. As usual, we piled into Amy's Saturn and bounced along with Hot Sex's hard bass line. We arrived to find people lounging on couches and sipping from red cups while rap music blared. Within 10 minutes, a guy approached me. We swooned over being from the same hometown, Chicago. Instead of shouting over lyrics, we agreed to go where we could hear one another. A quiet place was the apartment owner's bedroom. Our conversation was immemorable. One of us turned off the lights. As we sat on the bed and continued talking, I reached to unbutton his pants. Confident we were ready for the same thing. He pushed my hands away. Drunkenness and ego formed my confusion. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing. Let's just talk. You don't want to? No, let's just talk, he insisted. We talked, we drank, we kissed. I undressed. Surely my naked body would shift his stance, but it didn't. He sat on the bed, fully clothed, telling me how beautiful I was while I begged for intercourse. A commotion on the other side of the door disrupted my pleas. In here, Keisha said as she flung the door open and flipped on the lights. 5 people trailed behind her. Kathy, you okay? Yes, I answered, the room's brightness spotlighting my nudity. You want to be here? She confirmed. Yes. Can you turn off the lights and leave? I just want to make sure you want to be here. Yes, I assured her, I want to be here. She and everyone else pivoted. The room darkened, and I redressed. I took a deep breath and stared straight ahead in preparation to walk down the hall, which seemed longer than I remembered. Are we leaving soon? I asked Amy as I held the doorknob. In a minute. I sat at the top of the stairs outside of the apartment door. 5 minutes passed, then 15. 30 minutes later, I assumed we weren't leaving, so I began walking. My toes tingled in the Michigan snow. A white outline of salt damage formed on the edges of my booties. It would be the last time I'd wear them. 4 years prior, my mother had suddenly died of kidney disease. My maternal grandmother was an expert at pushing emotions aside and had advised me to do the same. Don't cry, she said. You've had your mama for a long time. 16 years is a long time. So I followed her lead and stifled the pain. In the meantime, my father moved on by dating a new woman a week after my mother's burial. He spent my junior year courting his newfound love and ignoring me. Taking care of a teenage daughter seemed to be too much for him. The following year, he gave up his parental rights and sent me to live with my grandparents in a small Michigan town called Covert. There, among blueberry farms and weeping willows, I met a boy. He loved me, and I was so enamored with the idea of his love and desire that I wrapped myself around him. I mattered. Our time together quickly turned physical, and it was liberating in the most poetic way. When we were together, my pent-up emotions floated free like colorful balloons toward a bright blue sky. He showed me how affection could soothe the deepest pains, how intimacy could make abandonment palatable. I couldn't fathom letting him go. To do so would mean returning to earth to face the reality of my circumstances, and I wasn't ready. He and I ebbed and flowed through teenage love, and eventually we broke up, but I chased the euphoria through college. The high was easy to maintain. Man after man helped me release the anger I'd learned to suppress, even if only temporarily. The next morning, I listened through the wall as Keisha recounted the night's events to my suite mate. Hey girl, Keisha hollered when I opened the bathroom door that connected our rooms. Where'd you go? I walked back. From the apartment to the valley, she asked. Then she shrugged. Me and Kenya are going to a party on campus tonight. You going? Yep, I replied with confidence. I didn't think you'd want to go after last night. Like everything else in life, I'd already suppressed the previous night's events. They held no shame for me, especially because nothing happened. We followed our weekend ritual and walked to the next party. House music reverberated off the empty gymnasium's walls. A group of people danced in a small circle. I found a random guy to sway in rhythm with and watched Keisha out of the corner of my eye, laughing and talking with the DJ. The music lowered, and I heard her voice over the microphone. I'd like to dedicate this song to my girl, she shouted. You know who you are. Then one of the most popular house songs at the time played. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. My insides burned as the refrain repeated, but I refused for her or anyone else to witness my anger. I'd been through worse. I raised my arms high and flailed them about, signaling that her attempt at humiliating me was a failure. Hey, I shouted as natural as I could, hoping my words were loud enough to hear. Thanks, girl. My dance partner cocked his head at my overreaction. Oh, that's my girl, I explained. She just dedicated this song to me. That night, I returned to the dorms alone again. The winter semester wore on. Amy faded into the background of campus life. Keisha, Kenya, and I didn't speak much. except when I asked if they knew who put dog shit on my doorknob. They assured me they did not. As for me, I continued my quest to escape the pain of life, one man at a time.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Whew. Um, Dr. Liddell, are you ready? You just have to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yes, I am. I also want to thank all of you for even doing this anthology and certainly for including mine. And I'll talk about why I am really thrilled when we get into the panel discussion. But I wanted to start off with a quote, an African proverb that says, "What an elder sees while sitting, a young person cannot see even if he climbs a tree." This is to all the elders in the house. Unlike in Western culture, for those cultures rooted in more ancient past, women between the ages, I forgot, let me go back. This was written, I'm 76 now. This was written when I was 55. So you took you 4 years to get the book out. Now it took me 20 years to get the essay out. So, but it's still relevant, I think. Okay. Unlike in Western culture, for those cultures rooted in more ancient past, women between the ages of 50 and 60, life expectancy being as it was, were celebrated for both their survival to old age and their arrival to this third stage of womanhood. Coming after menarche and motherhood, this third stage was always been one of wisdom, freedom, and fearlessness. While today the term crone is as pejorative as the term witch, originally it was much more complimentary, meaning elder, wise woman. Hence, women who reached the age of 60 and beyond were raised in status. They were indeed the elders, the wise women of the communities. They were the crones. What has often been called magic moon blood, that is our menses, which was released each month during those early stages, its energy symbolically given to our external world of family, work, church, associations, and on and on. The stored blood of our most postmenopausal crone stage, on the contrary, transforms most of us from all giving selfless, other-focused mother figures into self-assured, introspective sages who are prudent in the giving of both our time and our energy. We are careful now. We give only until it helps others, in contrast to giving until it hurts ourselves, the latter being the familiar pattern of our younger past. Most assuredly, as we grow older, we grieve the passing of those highly respected and celebrated early woman eras, especially that of motherhood, if that is, we desire to be mothers. Our grief is particularly magnified if then we have had no children. But childless or not, the bereavement is generally temporary, and once we walk gently through it, our spirits are renewed. It's almost as though we're born again, birthed as free women, freed women, harnessing new powers of patience, of tolerance, of thinking before speaking, and a host of other powers, including the power to say no without attacks of guilt. For the first time in an age, some of us actually see a self we can recognize and love. We no longer pass a mirror, as we have done in our earlier eldering, and wonder who in the world has invaded our body spaces, who has removed the smooth, taut skin from our body places and replaced it with this strange, loose covering. Our lifelong lust for a waif-like body dissipates, and we are able to smile with adoration at the round, voluptuous calabash that faces us. Our own voice sometimes surprises us as we speak without compromise. We speak the truth as we know it. And we now see how ridiculous we've looked over the past decades or so with our Clairol-aided shades of jet black, auburn, even blonde. The gray strands, which we once so faithfully camouflaged, are now as precious as filaments of antique silver. If we have not waged a battle against gravity through plastic surgery, we begin to see the strength and beauty in the gentle facial creases that reveal our life journey as vividly as lines on any map. We welcome the discounts that come with our senior status. We are finally of an age, and we can now celebrate the signifiers. This life-altering transition is fundamentally the same for all women, regardless of race, nationality, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. Each of us begins our middle passage, perimenopause, around the same age, somewhere between 40 and 50. Unless it has been hastened by a hysterectomy earlier on, we face its same ultimate consequences post-menopause between the ages of 50 and 60. Yes, the journey can last as long as 10 years, and for the most part, the actual pilgrimage is uniquely our own. Some of us skate into it as a child would on smooth ice without hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, memory lapses, sexual dysfunction, or other symptoms. For others, however, the passage may be traumatic enough to require medical or even psychological intervention. But for all of us, it's memorable. Yes, I refer to this mid-stage of my life journey as my own middle passage, but I do so with full reverence. I have no intention at all of minimizing the deathly, dangerous journey of my ancestors who were packed like cattle into spaces far too small for human comfort and well-being. Did I bother to say that I'm an African American almost crone? Well, I am. And all of the middle-aging references are consequently bound into my African American woman experiences. In fact, the bonus of my middle aging is that I have reached the age of 55 during the season that I have also been blessed to travel in reverse the course of my doomed ancestors, those who were snatched so unceremoniously from their African homelands. My reverse journey takes me to Mississippi, where my enslaved ancestors picked cotton to the sharp sting of cat o' nine tails, to Jamaica, homeland of my husband, and where so many of my own ancestors were seasoned, turned from free Africans into compliant bond servants and shipped north. After Jamaica, I sojourned to Senegal, where untold numbers of captured Africans were forced onto slave ships for lands and horrors that could never have been imagined. From Senegal, my pilgrimage took me to England, specifically Liverpool, the slave shipbuilding capital of the world, and where much of the impetus of the slave trade, greed, originated. Each of these places have profoundly moving stories to reveal, stories that have contributed to the novella of my own existence as a Black woman in America, stories that I am still processing. Even now, I'm still processing and internalizing stories that as a griot woman, I will tell and retell to my grands, my great and great and great grands of the dark star eyes. And then the rest of it, I go into each of those places that I visited and how they have contributed to my maturation as an eldering woman. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, so much for those beautiful pieces. In terms of the format, can we go ahead and go into the panel, or okay, is that a yes? Okay. So I know some of you have a couple of comments that maybe you wanted to make just based on your section, but I wanted to start with Miss Andrews, if I could, as she was the first one to read. And I wanted us collectively to kind of deconstruct the ways in which you were personifying and humanizing yourself in that room to make sure that they understood the richness of your life so that they would, in effect have, well, I'll let you answer that. So let's talk about how you felt in that moment or what urged you to start to try to make sure you humanize your experiences for the doctors and the nurses who are working on you.
I think anytime a Black woman finds herself in a waiting room, in a hospital room, She is very much hyper aware of the perceptives and prejudices of others. And I think in this context, just me as an individual, I have a lot of mistrust when it comes to any kind of situation where I'm receiving medical care. And it's not because I don't need the care and want the care, it's because I'm not being cared for properly. This has been like a pattern, and it's not a unique experience by any means, where all too often the pain that Black women have is ignored, is downplayed, is dismissed, or what we are asking for is neglected. And so I think I was just trying to um, just be more personal with the people that were treating me, both of whom were, white professionals, and having them be mindful of, hey, this is not just another body on the table. This is me. This is who I am. And please, take care of me in what is such a vulnerable kind of procedure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think the way that I'll do it is maybe 2 questions per speaker, and then we'll open it up for questions. Is that okay? Or do you want me to, is that fine? Okay. I'm making sure Black Lords Press is okay with. The second part that, and I know that some of the co-authors, the contributors might have comments and commentary too, but what is it? The opting for agreeability. Whew. That was a exhale moment for me. And I'm sure we all have similar stories, but I want just you to talk about that a little bit to make sure that you kind of hid your pain. You weren't, you just wanted to make sure that you were agreeable and not seen in a different light. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. We're all aware of how we can be held to just impossible standards of Blackness, of womanhood, and at times, I would say for me, it could feel like a performance, mostly when I'm in public, because I want to be treated in one certain way. I know what I have to present.
Mhm.
And so I think in terms of opting for agreeability, I guess wanted to establish that kind of trust is
Mhm.
I'm not someone you should feel threatened by or someone you should feel angered by. I'm not trying to make this difficult. And how unfortunate it is that I'm thinking about how the medical professionals that are treating me are feeling, as opposed
Mhm.
to how I'm feeling.
Yeah,
I'm still putting
absolutely.
the perception of other people even before myself
Mhm.
when I was the one that was receiving care.
Yeah. I think that that's such a clear depiction of these consequences of these stereotypes that you negated, you were negating yourself in that moment to make sure you had a certain level of care. And we're going to come back to that. And I wanted the panel and others to be able to speak to this piece as well. Ms. Dunmore, I'm going to come to you next. Um, Looking back, do you think that your ex-boyfriend's father was acting out of entitlement or objectification? Like, what do you think, or do you think it was like something else? I know he tried to mask it as maybe misinterpreting your feelings, but have you considered, or is it relevant what his intentions were?
I think that's part of the reason why I wrote the piece to begin with, because I was trying to wrestle with why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whether it had something to do with how men see women or how there's no connective tissue, like because you were dating my son, I don't see you in that way, or you're just another person that is available to me. And I think the thought of me being a person that is just random and available and not a part of what I thought was family hurt me. And to speak to another Black man about that and even talking about celebrities and just that offhanded comment, it's like, well, she's up for grabs.
Yeah.
And then that, that relating to me, and just really internalizing that made me write that piece.
Yeah, I thought the title was perfect, and even the way that you ended it with the "told ya," like I think that that was more of a recognition of like the disregard for women's own perspective in that space. Like this is like an agreed upon,
Yeah. And why
it's
did
a
you
social
think you were
contract
different?
among men that we have no input in. It seemed like, yeah,
Yes. Why did you think you were different?
yeah,
Told you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're gonna come back to that. There's so much in all of these texts. K.E. Garland. So my first question, it has to do with the title. Like we all read the title, I was, it definitely jumps out at you. So I'm just interested to know if you always knew that was gonna be the title of the piece, or like how'd you get there?
No, I really was minding my own business, driving my car, and I heard the Cardi and Megan
Oh,
song, and I was like, "What is somebody? Why is this song playing in the 2000s?
yeah.
Who is playing this song?" And then when I kept, when I listened to it, I'm like, okay, got it. Like, the scholar in me is like, okay, you like co-opted
Hmm.
the phrase, right? And did the things. But no matter how much I listened to it, I didn't feel different. I just kept going back to, it was
Yeah.
like 1990 again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice title as well. Do you see like the behavior you described, or maybe the behavior that's described in the piece as like inherently self-destructive, or do you see that it can be a form of healing? Like where do you sit with the what yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that behavior was definitely self-destructive. So what I talk about, because my memoir is called Memoir of a Sex Addict, people confuse sex addict with what is it called when you like, so it's
A nymph
different than,
a
yeah, it's different.
nymphomaniac?
Well, no, that's kind of
Oh,
like what
sex.
it is, but
Okay.
that's like an outdated term. But there's this idea that, women can be sexually free, right?
Hmm.
That we can have sex anytime we want to with whoever we want to. That's not what a sex addict is.
Oh, yeah,
And so that's
liberation. You mean like
right,
yeah,
sexual
sexually
liberation.
liberated. Okay.
Right. So that's different. No,
Yeah.
this type of behavior, I was trying to show that it was definitely destructive and it came from a place, right? But like, what do we know in our 20s when we're 19, or, when we're in undergrad? We don't know these things. And so what I was trying to show is how not just kind of like men, like the previous author talked about. So
Hmm.
men do this to us, but then also women do it to each other, right? And I'm not saying that you should stop at 20 and be like, oh, girl, what was your unresolved trauma? But you might think something was a little odd if
Yeah.
one minute I'm this way and the next minute I'm like,
Yeah.
naked in the room. Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Dr. Liddell, you mentioned when you were presenting that, and it's funny because I think that my first question to you, let me go back, sorry, was I think you so eloquently described this process of aging, particularly in our society that's so pro-youth. Can you explain why this piece was so important to you?
Yes, indeed. I think I can. Because we all talk about erasures of some aspects of womanhood, of Black
Hmm.
womanhood. But when you get a certain age and you're a Black woman in America, you are totally erased. You no
Mm-hmm.
longer exist. I was thinking the other day about vision boards.
Hmm.
How many older Black women actually do vision boards? That's really a phenomenon that younger Black women do. I
Hmm.
don't know of any male that do it, but younger Black women do it. And I think that's because this society tells us that we don't have any vision. After we get a certain age, we don't have visions
Hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
And I wrote the piece because I want to make sure that I am an advocate for eldering women
Hmm.
who are here who are in our space and who do have visions and dreams still.
Yes. Yes, like that's so powerful. The other, I mean, a large part of your entry was retracing the journey of your ancestors. And so, and the hope that you thought it would bring to the dark, star-eyed grandchildren and generations to come. So talk a little bit about that and what you hope your grandchildren see through this journey. Like, what do you want their takeaway to be?
Well, I want them, of course, to appreciate my journey. I want them to recognize my journey because I think young people have a tendency, in fact, these days, you don't have too many children who want to hear the stories. They want to be the story. And so I want my great grands. I had my great grand today. She's 3 years old, so I kept her overnight. So, but I want her to know that I am a full human being, as I said before, with visions, with dreams, with hopes, even at this stage in my life. And that's important to me. And I think that going back, tracing that journey and getting us here will help them to see that where I've been will also lead to where I'm going.
Thank you. And thank you for writing this. Thank you for sharing this. We don't have whole reflections of our femininity at in your age and in this space. And it's just refreshing to see. Thank you for sharing all of that.
And what can I just add something else
Of
too?
course.
What I noticed when I first got my book, my copy, I read through them and I just read the essays and I wasn't connecting the dots or anything. But then in preparation for this, I read all of the ones in our section and I realized that mine was the only older woman. And I kind of felt like all of those things that they had talked about, all those important movements, motions, tropes, and everything, I've been there. And I want people to recognize, I want scholars to recognize, I want musicians to recognize, I want filmmakers to recognize, I want TV program people to recognize that we are still here. And that's important to me.
And that's important to us. Like it wouldn't be the same without that entry like that. So thank you. I want to be able, I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. If there's not, I want to make sure that the contributors can talk, ask each other questions or elaborate any more on, that's okay? Okay. On their pieces, or if they have thoughts or comments about anything that's been said thus far. If not, I can go back to have more questions, but I kind of want to have a dialogue more broadly in this space.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can, of course.
I just want to know I don't know how many people are in the audience, but I'm very curious to know how many people are in the audience who are over 60.
Okay, there was 41, I think, or 42 at the height. It's 40 right now.
Okay.
I
Can we
don't
get a
know.
hand raise? I know he told me you can raise hands.
I think there's a poll option. I don't know if we want to be. Oh, some people, I see hands that are being raised that are that meet those qualifications. I can't see all the hands. Let me see.
Okay.
So I just see
I was just curious as to how many elders are in the house.
Do any let's see. Oh, I see a couple. No, I see 3, 4. Yeah, there's more hands going up. So you have a crew with you. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Y'all are at least 5
And
deep.
I'm older than you.
Who is that?
Sarah White.
Hi.
I will be 79 this month.
Oh,
congratulations.
Great.
Yes. Somebody 76 and they said they're happy to be here. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that question and comment. Is there anyone else that, and I think it's okay if anyone on the call just wants to, I think it might just be comments, but if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, I think that would be fine. There's a lot of thank yous and thank you. Someone just turned 59 on Sunday, 68 and 66. Yeah, so. Do any of the panelists have a question or comment about another person's piece? Someone's 73, still commenting.
Dr. Youssef, I want to kind of like just affirm each person's piece, if that's okay, and
Yes,
I'll try to keep
of
it brief.
course.
Um, so for Denise, as I was listening, it was I think it's just so interesting how we try to appease white people, even when we are in pain ourselves. So I just want to I'm sorry that you even went through that, but I do understand that because it's just a, I guess, testament to how much we have to protect ourselves even in places where we're supposed to be safe, right?
Mhm. Mhm. And sometimes not even knowing where, because sometimes I find myself in that space and I don't catch it until, and I'm like, I write about this, I read about this, but
Right,
you're still, it's so indoctrinated in society that you sometimes engage in the behavior in a non-reflective way until you're like, no, I'm really hurt. Like this is
right.
not okay, and it's not okay that I was handled this way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on to the.
No, it's fine. Pietra, your particular essay, and I don't even know if I should say this out loud, but I'm going to say it. Um, so I was in a situation where my father-in-law hadn't seen my oldest daughter in a while, and he commented on her body, but not like in a grandfather way, to my husband. And when I was trying to have the conversation, like, oh, that was really creepy and that wasn't appropriate, my husband was like, well, she's like a part of the market, I think is what he said, something like that. It was some word like that. And I was like, wait a minute. So it just kind of it bothers me that I was happy that to hear that you had not happy is not the right word. I feel like it resonated because I think that a lot of times we are as women treated like well just objectified, right? But beyond objectification, it's like you said, even when we try to seek out like like confirmation from men, they're just kind of like nah, like at the end of the day you are just
Yeah,
a woman.
Mhm.
yeah, you're just a part of the, yeah, just a part of it. I think it's prevalent. I mean, I don't know if other cultures do this, but if you think about um, what your parents may tell you, you don't, like, let's say you have a man in the house, even if it's your father, you're supposed to cover up at all times because at the end of the day, a woman will tell you that's still a man
Mhm.
and not in what that man is in relation to you. It's a man. And at the end of the day, all they see is breast and butt. And it doesn't matter what relation that breast and butt is to them. It's a part, and they're looking at it, and it basically erases you as a woman, as a person, that I can just be parts to you and not, a whole of a person and of a relationship. I think many of us have dealt with that at some point and have had to internalize that and then change how we go forward and move forward in the world because of that realization.
Yeah. I think that
And
there is a question, I don't want to mispronounce. Munra, I don't think I'm saying that right. Does someone have their hand up in the chat? There was also a comment, and I'm just going to read this out loud for the panelists in case you can't see. Jennifer Eagleton, I am white, non-American, and not living in America. Interesting to hear these pieces. I cannot comment on the experiences of Black women, but some of these, like medical staff downplaying women's health issues, its anxiety, and male attitudes to women are to a degree also relates to white women. And then people are just saying thank you and they really appreciate the insights. But I do think is there someone on the call that has a question? Faika? Is that how maybe? Okay, maybe not. Okay. If you do, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. But if not, we can continue the dialogue. Peach, I think you were just saying something that Denise kind of mentioned in her piece too, because your piece kind of went back and forth about a stranger's gaze and male gaze and how, we have all those experiences, whether it's our grandmothers or our moms, over policing or like making us very self-conscious about our bodies to protect us from the gaze or what could happen, and not necessarily dealing directly with what's wrong with society, kind of your broader point that everyone's up for grabs, like what's wrong with society, that we don't direct it to correcting male behavior, but it's more like, you have to be vigilant about your behavior and how you sit and your mannerisms, etc., so that you are not easy prey for someone else.
Absolutely. I think I did connect with everybody's pieces here. With Pietra's piece, where you have that a man that is older than you having that comfortability that is, feels entitled to you. I kind of had spoken about a situation in biopsy where I was a teenager and one of my friends' fathers pulled up to me in their car and was trying to talk to me. And I'm thinking, even if you were my friend's father, I do not know you and I am not getting in your car. And yet he felt so comfortable just to start questioning me and just to start talking to me. And me being at a vulnerable age, my mom had told me you don't talk to strangers. And so I gave him probably just the weirdest look for him to back off, thankfully. But I think every Black woman has some type of experience where she was laughing too loud or received some type of unwarranted commentary about her appearance, her mannerisms, whatever it might be, where there's just this commentary where it's like it doesn't even include you.
Yeah. Dr. Liddell, do you want to, like in this space, we're kind of talking about these perceptions and you kind of reimagine the crone. And do you want to say anything about that as we kind of, talk about these other ideas? You have to unmute yourself first.
I have a play that I've written called Crowning the Crone.
Oh.
And it's all about her reflecting on where she has been. And many of these stories that I'm hearing, that right here and now, I've been there. Okay. The story she just mentioned, that Denise just mentioned, I think, about her, somebody driving up to her, my own uncle-in-law. I was walking home from school and he drove up with a friend of his trying to pick me up. He didn't realize it was me until I said, "Hey, uncle," then he was embarrassed and he took off. But, all of these stories just about, I have been there. And I think being the crone is recollecting, remembering, and appreciating those experiences and putting them out there for others to, so they can resonate with people who are going through them.
Yeah.
We've been there and you're going through it now, and you're going to get, if you're fortunate, you're going to get to where I am. You want to, because the alternative is not that nice.
Yeah.
But that is what I think of as the crone, is to take all of those experiences, all of that learning, and holding it dear and reflecting on it and putting it back out there.
I don't see, thank you. What I want to do in the time that we have is maybe allow each of the contributors to offer some advice or guidance to those listening on the call, either in the way of how they could handle a situation that you described in your writing, or just any advice to Black women and others in 2025 America at this point. So I just kind of want, everyone's kind of concluding thoughts and any advice that they want to share to those who are listening. And we could kind of go in the same order if you want of the presentations. Or Dr. Liddell, you're the ancestor of the group, so we defer to you first. My apologies.
Well, I'll just read the concluding paragraph of my article here, and I think it tells what I want to say in terms of advice or whatever you want to call it. God has invested in me, not only by bringing me to this middlemost milestone of my life, but also by giving me in this single year such a profound physical journey with which to celebrate it. I have so much to tell my third millennium star-eyed grandchildren that will connect them to our past. So much that will connect and make them proud to be who and what they are. And like all the crones who survived their middle passage and shared, I am preparing now for my own sharing. I am prepared, and I'm proud to be a crone. And I do want us to reimagine what that whole concept of crone is, because it was not always a pejorative word. And I want us to take ownership of it again. We are wise, sage, elder women. In other words, we are crones.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Anybody want to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
If there's any advice I can offer to all my sisters and my brothers that are in attendance as well, and anybody that is listening, I think right now connection is everything. Connection is key with the threat of the administration and our society that we are feeling. It is so important that we stand up and that we show out and that we don't retreat and we just again make ourselves available to friends, family, loved ones, really making that effort just to be in tune with one another because I think we need each other more than anything right now. And that is why I'm just so thankful for spaces like this. I mean, here in Sacramento, it is storming outside, but it is so cozy in here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll go. Um, as far as advice, I feel that when situations like this happen, everyone's go-to may be different. And if your go-to is to internalize and then deal, which is kind of what I do, um, it's more of a bear witness and show a light of what's happening. That's kind of, I feel like, how I deal with things. Other people may be more confrontational and that may work for them. I think my advice is go with what feels true to you. Um, some of these things may be more situational, especially depending on what your size is, how that person may react to you once you confront them. As a woman, sometimes what you would like to do and what is possible are two different things.
Yeah.
Um, but whatever your situation is and how you choose to deal with it, um, be safe in that. And if it's something where you have to hold it and express it later, feel free to do that. But don't internalize it to the point where it destroys you.
Yeah.
I think that would be my main advice for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So first of all, Dr. Liddell, thank you so much too for your contribution. As somebody who has been in perimenopause forever, I appreciate you. I appreciate you with those words. Okay,
It'll
so
end. It will end.
oh, please, I wish I could see it. Okay. But what I want to say is the essay that I wrote here is a microcosm of a lot of my life. And what I've noticed is that sometimes we as women don't hold space for one another. And that would be my advice. So if you see your sister acting strange, I think not in that moment, but maybe later, say something or at least ask, right? Or if you see somebody in your family that might be functioning out of character, then it is okay to say something. To Dr. Liddell's point, especially if we are older, if you are an elder, I think it is okay. I know it hasn't always seemed like it, but I think it's okay to kind of pull somebody to the side Um, and just, with care to say, hey, what's going on here? So that would be my advice.
Thank you. I feel like probably many of you all who have kind of said it, this is the first time I've exhaled. I feel like all year. This month has felt like the longest year of my life, and I'm sure a lot of you all who just are doing the good work and trying to chart paths and work in this space, it's been challenging. So I just want to thank you for this energy today. I didn't, I didn't have a personal piece on the body, but what I want to say is that I'm still learning to accept help. I'm still learning to admit, even as a single, that I don't have it all together all the time, that I'm not always okay. I'm thankful for girlfriends that know that we can be vulnerable, together and say, okay, I just need to cry for 5 minutes and then I'm gonna figure the rest out. So I'm thankful for this space, but I just want advice to everyone on the call that we don't always have to pretend. Like, it is not our responsibility to save America right now in the fullness of this moment. Like, we have to take care of ourselves first and our families, our communities, then we can go broader. But, listening to the news and a lot of stuff is a lot of strain on mental health. And I just know in a lot of the spaces that I work through where everyone is feeling it. And so if we can just acknowledge each other, see each other, understand, and admit that while we come from this legacy of resilience and strength and fortitude, and we are not discounting that, that it's okay to say, I need a minute. I'm not going to do this today. I'm not okay. No, I just told my kids, you figure out, I got a call. I just got off of work. You figure out dinner. Like, y'all are grown enough to figure it out. And, I'm leaning more into that. So I just, as a panel, thank you for your entries. I want to say, Dr. West White, I'm a criminologist. I usually travel the country doing work with policing communities. I write about not boring stuff, but not the stuff that I'm extremely passionate about all the time. And so I want to thank you, Dr. West White, for presenting this opportunity to even play in this space, to be renewed in this space, to tap into everything of what it means to be a Black woman in this space. So thank you, Dr. Westford. I know you're going to do the next section. And anyone listening, stay tuned to the next series. The next section is on In the Mind, and Dr. West White will be the moderator. And then we follow through with the other 3 and 4 sections. And I think it's some kind of collaborative ending event at the end. So I'm sure we'll be updated. Abaye, are you still on the call?
Dr. Youssef, can I
Yes.
interrupt for a second? And I just want to give 2 little bits of advice to everybody who knows an elder, who knows an elder woman. Sit down with her and do a vision board with her. Okay. Let her tell you what her future is. What are her dreams? She has them, but we have been stifled as elder women for so long that we are not able or willing to articulate them often. Sit down with an older woman and do a vision board with her. Also, I would ask that you play this recording with an older woman to let her know that she does have a space and a place, and as a Black woman in America, in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much for being here tonight. Thank you, Professor Youssef, for a wonderful panel. Thank you all, the panelists. I think we have a question. A hand was just raised. Professor Youssef, did you want to take this?
I think that's okay. Technically, we have a couple minutes. Is it Cheryl? Is that the question from Cheryl?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you, all of you. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Liddell, for the invite tonight. And I did put my question in the chat, but I'd like to just get it out. Will this be available as a playback for anyone who could not be present tonight? I would love for my 2 granddaughters and my daughter to hear this.
I think I'm going to give it to, I think it is because we're recording it. So I think it's going to be on the Black Lawrence Press website, YouTube channel. Yes. And then can you post, okay, I got it. Somebody asked where could they, yes, buy the book, support.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah. Somebody posted the link in there. Is there any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Everyone, yeah, a lot of people are just saying thank you, thank you, thank you. As the panelists, if you have not got a chance to read it, it's been a blessing. They've enjoyed this exchange. Hopefully, we are setting the bar high for the next chapters. And please tune into those as well if you can.
I'm just blown away, Professor Yusuf, by the wisdom. Um, I'm just humbled by this panel. It's just so wonderful. The anthology, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to raise it up like this. It's a wonderful anthology, labor intensive. The editors worked really hard on this. It's amazing. The amount of work they put into it, one doesn't know on looking from the outside in, but it's such a privilege to have for the press to be part of this project. Um, the link to purchase the book is available in the chat. Also, this recorded event will be posted on the BLP YouTube page sometime between tomorrow or the day after. But this is not the last event. It's just the first. It's the first of five. So the next event is going to be 2 Tuesdays from now, as Professor Youssef was saying. It will be moderated by Professor Clarissa West White. The theme would be the mind, and it's going to be on February, I'm looking at my date here, February 18th. Tune in then. We invite you to please have friends, people who might be interested to tune in as well so that we can keep this conversation going. All right. Professor
Thank
West
you.
White, Professor West White, Professor Bulwar, Professor Yusuf, should we look forward to Tuesday then and bring this to a close?
Yes, I think so. So you all enjoy your night, get a good night's sleep, restore yourself. Thank you. And just, remember this, breathe in. I know tomorrow as I drive into work, I will be remembering this conversation and thanking you all for this exchange of energy. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.